John Balanoff. I'm director of the Acton Wakefield Watersheds Alliance, or AWA as we're called. Groups like AWA and Maine Lakes, our mission is to protect and restore water quality in lakes, rivers, and streams in Maine and New Hampshire. And we do that primarily to protect the lakes that we love, because we all enjoy using the lakes and spending time here. But our lakes are under stress, and there's threats to our lakes, the greatest of which is pollution, non-point source pollution coming from stormwater. The reason we want to keep stormwater out of the lake is because it brings with it bare soil, sediment, and nutrients that are in that sediment, such as phosphorus, that can feed algae blooms and cyanobacteria blooms, and is harmful to aquatic species like fish and frogs, and turtles. So for a variety of reasons, we want to keep this stormwater out of the lake. We do that by diverting it or infiltrating into the ground. So at this property, they have a lot of stormwater coming down the driveway. So we're going to be installing rubber razors that divert stormwater off of their driveway. Right here's a prime example of where stormwater has been rushing down this driveway. You can see it's formed a really deep gully. And so we're going to put a rubber razor right here in the driveway to divert that stormwater off to the side and into the ground by using a dry well. When installing a rubber razor, the first step is to dig the trench that the rubber razor is going to be installed into. We want to install a rubber razor on a 30-degree angle in the driveway, so when stormwater hits it, it's going to be slowly diverted off the driveway and into a dry well. The rubber razors need to be buried so that the wood is underground and the rubber is actually sticking out. So right now they're digging a 6-inch deep trench to install the rubber razor into so that the 6-inch tall lumber is fully buried. In some cases you can go a little bit deeper and then backfill it with some crushed stone to create a level surface for the rubber razor if needed. But in general it needs to be 6 inches deep to fully cover the lumber and having the rubber sticking out 3 inches to 4 inches out of the ground.
We're going to be installing a rubber razor on this project. There's going to be 5 inches of rubber sticking out of the top of the rubber razor so that cars can drive over it. So we are going to be sandwiching the rubber in between the two 2x6s, leaving 5 inches of rubber at the top. This is the top of the rubber razor. There's going to be a little bit of rubber sticking out at the bottom, but that's okay. It just depends on how thick of a piece of rubber you have.
Three-quarter-inch stone is put in around the rubber razor, primarily as a way to stabilize it while it's being installed and keep it upright so it won't rock around and move around in the ground. The rubber razor is designed to divert water off of the driveway, but we still want that stormwater to go somewhere, ideally into the ground. So at the end of most rubber razors, we install a dry well, which is a hole that we fill with crushed stone. So once the water gets to the end of the rubber razor, it's going to infiltrate into that crushed stone and go underground instead of running around and going down into the lake. When it comes to the size of a dry well, bigger is obviously better because it's that much more stormwater that can be retained during a storm. The dry well needs to be approximately 18 inches deep and 18 inches in diameter. Now that the hole's been dug, we're going to fill it with riprap stone, about 4 to 6 inch stone, and fill it all the way up to the top with that stone. So when water hits it, it'll trickle and infiltrate its way through that stone into the ground. This is a completed rubber razor. The rubber is sticking up out of the ground about 4 inches. At the very end, you can surround it with crushed stone like this, or some people use erosion control mulch or bark mulch. You can just leave it as dirt. It's really just sort of an aesthetic thing. The rocks do have an added bonus of having some infiltration, but the primary focus of these is to be water diversion, so really any medium along the sides is okay. The critical thing about rubber razors, why they're so useful in driveways, is because you can drive over them, because they are malleable like this. So you can drive back and forth over these as many times and they're still going to function as water diverters for the driveway. This is a finished dry well, So once the stormwater is diverted off of the driveway, it needs to get infiltrated into the ground. So we have this 18-inch deep, approximately 18-inch wide hole full of riprap stone, and the water is going to now run down off of the driveway and infiltrate into the ground into our dry well. So with proper maintenance, these BMPs can last for 5 to 10 years, maybe even more. They do need to be dug out sometimes in the spring, but they should function to keep stormwater out of the lake for at least 5 to 10 years. Now, it is important to check in with your local town code enforcement officer to see if you're going to need a permit for a project like this. The state of Maine does require permits for certain activities within 75 feet of the water, and some towns can have stricter rules than that, so it's always good to check in with the local CEO just to make sure you're doing everything the right way. With that said, we are experiencing more frequent and intense storms in our region. There's never been a more important time to develop a resilient shoreline and do whatever we can to protect the lakes that we love. Installing these kinds of BMPs is a very easy and cost-effective way for you to do your part. It's good for the shoreline, it's good for the lake, and it's a way for us to allow the lake to stay clean for future generations. So if you do have any additional questions, you can go to the Maine Lakes website at lakes.me. You can go to our website at awwatersheds.org. Happy to talk to you more about how to install BMPs and what things you can do on your property to protect the lake for future generations. So feel free to reach out, and thanks for doing your part.